so glad that you're all here today. I really appreciate you being here on this really gorgeous summer morning. I'm going to be mic'd because we are video recording this for people who couldn't be here today. So be careful what you say because it's going to go on YouTube and it'll be out there forever. We're going to start by doing the rituals that we do in class, which I'll do again later. But by ringing the chime, this is our centering moment to all come into this space. So I'll do that. And then we will say our opening words together. And these are the opening words that we use in class while I light the chalice. We light this chalice to celebrate Unitarian Universalism. This is the church of the open mind. This is the church of the loving heart. This is the church of the helping hands. Together we care for our earth and work for peace and friendship in our world. This is when we're holding each other's hands. Okay, so great. All right, so let's just start out. Well, let me just say that for this morning, we have 88 teachers this year, but obviously there are not 88 people here. Primarily, this morning, we have new teachers, but we have a few returning teachers as well. We have some extremely experienced people in this room, which is awesome because they add so much to the conversation. I'm really grateful to have them here. And also, this is just preschool through 5th grade because I do separate trainings for the other age groups. So just so you know who's in the room, we had Celebrating Me and My World teachers for preschoolers, Experiences with the Web of Life for K1, Holidays and Holy Days for 2nd and 3rd grade, and Bibleodian for 4th and 5th grade. So since we are a smaller group, I'd love to just go around and have you introduce yourselves and say which class you're teaching. And maybe we can start with you, Naomi.
Sure. Hi, Naomi Lee. I'll be teaching Holidays and Holy Days. My daughter is going to be a 2nd grader, so I'll be her class.
And maybe also add when you're teaching.
Saturday afternoon.
I'm Mary Pat Stengel, and I'm teaching Celebrating Me and My World in room 3 on Sundays at 9 a.m. My son will be in class too.
Harry Carnes, Experiences the Web of Life, 11.
Leah Halsey, Web of Life as well on Saturdays.
Janice Cordes, Celebrating Me and My World, Sundays at 11.
Larissa Kruger, Celebrating Me and My World, 9 a.m. in room 4.
Okay.
Paula Alt and Celebrating Me and My World, 9 o'clock, room 4.
Hillary Plum, Web of Life, Sundays at 9 a.m.
Joanna Page, Holidays and Holy Days, and I'm Kathy Stephanie, and I am on Holidays and Holy Days, and that's at 11.
I'm Jonathan Darby, and I'm teaching Kathy at some times in class.
I'm Ellie. I'll be helping Celebrating Me and My World, and Sundays at 9, and I'm not sure which group.
Sandy, I'm doing Holidays and Holy Days on Saturday. I'm Pamela, and I think I'll be doing 9 a.m. on Sunday, Experiencing the Web of Life.
I'm Beth, and I'm going to teach Holidays and Holy Days on Sunday at 9.
I'm Helga, and I teach Web of Life Sunday at 9. I'm Anya. I'm teaching Celebrating Me and My World at 11 in room 4.
I'm Karen, and I'm teaching Holidays and Holy Days on Saturdays.
Norma.
I'm Norma Stanton, and we're doing Celebrating Me and My World, and we have Saturday afternoon class. Those are the 3 and 4-year-olds.
I'm Herman, and I'm also teaching on Saturday, Celebrating Me and My World.
And I'm Lori Lightfoot, and I'm also teaching Celebrating Me and My World on Saturdays.
I'm Barry, doing Experiences with Web of Life on Saturday.
Simon, doing Celebrating Me and My World, Sunday
great. Hopefully people made some connections. So, oh yeah, you're on my team by doing that. So if anyone needs to be directed to who might be on their team who's here, I'm happy to do that. They have a full team here, and that like never happens, so that's awesome. Okay, so I want to introduce you to me and Karen. If you want to come up, Karen, so that you know who we are. I'm Leslie, and I'm not teaching anything. And I'm the Director of Children's Religious Education. Just started my 19th year here, which blows my mind, but. And this is Karen.
I'm Karen, and I do registration and supplies, and I'll be back to talk more about that later.
And so we are your RE program staff, and just to kind of differentiate who does what, I kind of have in my purview all of the curriculum stuff, curriculum development, policies and procedures, program development things, behavior management things, trainings. Yeah, that's kind of my bailiwick. And Karen deals with everything supply related, and you're gonna love her because she's very thorough in making sure that you have everything that you need, and does a really great job of that, and handles everything with registration and database stuff. So.
And it can also be a support in the behaviors.
Yes. She is a former preschool teacher and has a lot of work with kids. She knows how to wrangle the masses. So anyway. And here's our agenda for today. We're going to start out kind of big picture and go smaller and smaller from there. And at one point, we're going to break up by nursery school wing people and courtyard wing people. So. So we think of the religious education program here as very much a communal experience. We depend a lot on our community of parents, of teachers, of kids, and it makes everything richer to have so many different experiences and voices and talents be part of the mix. I think it's one of the pieces of magic that happens each year in religious education is the ways that community come together and create these small communities, because really each classroom is a community unto itself. And so it's a wonderful thing, and we're glad that you're a part of that. We kind of think of your role as educational ministry, and some people may think, oh, whoa, that sounds like too much for me. I'm just a teacher. But really what you're doing is educational ministry on behalf of this church. You're really helping to nurture, ethical, spiritually minded, responsible, compassionate kids in our program. And I think it's just a huge service to this community and to our kids and really to the world, because we need more of that in this world. So you are our educational ministers, and for that I thank you. Let's see. And I would add also that as educational ministers, like if you ask any minister if they gain anything, out of doing their ministry, they will say, yes, we gain much more than we give. And I think, I hope that will be your experience as well, that in the process of teaching, you'll feel like you gain so much and that it's really enriched your life. And I think the fact that we have so many returning teachers every year is testament to how it enriches their lives and how it nurtures their lives. So I hope that will be your experience as well. So I want to start out with a little brainstorming here. So keeping in mind that we are a church, and we are specifically a Unitarian Universalist church, and we are a large children's religious education program. I want to just do some brainstorming about what do you think would be our goals here? Why do we have the religious education program that we do? What are we trying to accomplish? So anyone wants to throw out an idea? Go for it. Friendship. Great. Community. D.
To train good youths.
To what?
To train good youths.
Yes. Yes. Let's see. Yes. We'll go with train. Train you use. Okay.
Inclusivity.
Inclusivity. Great.
Kindness.
Kindness.
Spirituality or spiritual enrichment.
Yep.
Guidance.
What's that?
Guidance.
Guidance. Yeah.
Meaning.
Meaning.
Fun.
Fun. Fun. Okay, we'll have fun.
Encouraging curiosity.
Curiosity. Excellent.
Knowledge.
Knowledge.
Acceptance of others.
Acceptance. Anything else?
Fulfillment.
Fulfillment. Like it.
A sense of self in the world.
Yes. Sense of self. Okay. Let's see. I'm going to add on to this respect for the earth. Speaking to our seventh principle. What else? I'm going to also add critical thinking skills. And then the last thing I am going to add is putting our values into action. How do we live our UU values? So that's what you need to do. Have a good year. Yeah, that's a really good comprehensive list, and you'll notice that there's very little that refers to academics in here. It's a religious education program, but our goal is not necessary, our primary goal is not necessarily to impart all of this information. Knowledge is important, and we want them to learn, obviously, but more than anything, we want the community. I mean, our mantra is community over curriculum. That the most important thing that we want for them to gain from being here is a sense of place, a sense of community, a sense of how to be in relationship with each other. We want this to be a safe space for them to explore who they are and what they think in an environment that's not going to judge them or criticize, their perspectives on things. That the most important thing is nurturing their spirits and their souls. And it's awesome if they can learn a few things along the way. But no one's going to test them on that. So, yeah, so that's kind of what we're about, is really about the community that happens during the year. On your tables, you have the outline of a human being that we're going to call a child, even though it looks more adult-like. And what I'd like for you to do is think about, so if these are the big program goals, I'd like you to think about how you want the child's experience to be in your classroom. And so I'm not talking about what do you want your kid to learn about holidays and holidays. I'm talking about what is the experience that you want them to have. If they were describing what class was like, what would they use to describe that? Does that make sense? And then maybe, Tony, you can join another table here and just brainstorm and fill in your child outline the experience that you want your child to have or your children to have as a group. Brainstorm together. It's a communal experience. And then I'll describe the heart piece later. Just ignore that little box for now, okay? Sound good? All right, so just take a few minutes to do a little brainstorming. Good morning, Mike. You want to join another table? And don't you join that one? Okay, I'll bring you a chair.
Make room for me. Well, I mean, certainly we want them to help. I think that's something that we like. So we just bring a lot of
Unfortunately.
Don't listen to him. No snacks. No snacks.
I was in class during that transition, and I will tell you that it wasn't a good to experience the transition from snacks to no snacks. It was not the hardest thing to do. Very sad. They're not so I appreciate it, even though my daughter is
So after you've had some time to brainstorm your child's experience of RE, the heart is you. That is the educational ministry that you provide. So then I want you to brainstorm ideas like, okay, if that's the experience that you want the kids to have in your class, what can you bring to that equation? What's the heart and soul that you're going to bring into the classroom to make that experience possible? Okay? Okay, so one more minute, and then we'll move on.
That could be on the 10 o'clock probably.
There is too much snack talk going on at that table. Okay, so let's hear what y'all came up with. If you could find one person from each table who would share your outline and the ideas that you came up with, that would be great. And which table wants to go first?
We're having trouble hearing you.
Are you?
Yeah, with echoing and all that.
Okay. I will talk louder. Is that better? Okay. Does your table want to go first? Did you hear that? Yeah, here, you can use the mics. Excellent idea.
So you put me in mind, put yourself
I'm on. I'm like, okay, you want to stand up and share what you got? It is.
Okay. Child's experience we had I'm not a morning person. We had fun and play in the head as well as familiar faces. Down towards the shoulder bone, feel loved, acceptance at the heart. We actually had that on the heart and the shoulder. Feel welcome, safe, movement at the feet, sharing. And what we thought we as teachers should bring to us is compassion, patience, love, respect, sense of humor, leadership, modeling with our values, or showing our values, energy, enthusiasm, relaxed, and calm approach.
Calm approach? Excellent. Love it. Good. Very good. All right, who wants to go next?
Well, they're going next.
That's leadership, Norma. Do you want to stand up, Tony?
Sure.
Thank you. Now that you've been totally put on the spot.
Okay. We felt that.
Speak in the mic.
We felt
There we
that
go.
the child's experience of religious education should be relaxed. It should be inclusive, playful, creative, continuous, fun, interesting, and accepting. I think I repeated accepting twice, but that's okay.
We can be doubly accepting.
And the adult teacher's contribution should be calmness, flexibility, patience, presence, attention, noticing, creativity, imagination, preparedness, love, caring. Do I have that right? Is that bravery?
Bravery. Like it. Anybody from this table want to say more about bravery?
Getting up and walking in the classroom.
And also, if you notice, like an interaction problem with the kids, having the bravery to deal with it and not to maybe ignore it. So we talked about, sometimes when kids want to break into cliques or a kid might be not having the best experience, having the bravery to figure out how am I going to talk to the kids about this or what,
Yeah.
not ignore a problem that you see starting.
Yeah. Actually,
Yeah.
right. I think that's really great because I don't know that I've ever heard that mentioned before, but I think it's super important. And I guess maybe in a way it ties in with leadership, but I think that one of the things that our teachers struggle with sometimes is that they're afraid to intervene in behavioral issues because, it could be that Joey's mom is teaching in the room with you or is there with you that day, or, you know, it's hard because you just have them for an hour each week, and yet I think it's like one of the most important things that we do, because we're helping them to learn how to succeed in a group. And that doesn't mean being, you know, when I say like intervening, I'm not necessarily talking about being punitive, but just helping them know how to be in a relationship with each other in a way that's going to be positive and that's going to help boost the whole community as opposed to pulling it down. So I think that's a difficult thing, and probably, you know, truth be told, the biggest frustration that I've heard from teachers is around behavior management stuff, and I think it's like foundational to what we do. So because of that, we're going to do everything we can to help you with that, because we recognize that that's really challenging. So that's why I hope all of us are going to get together again in October, and I'm going to tell you about that in a little bit, but we'll just keep going on this path. But just know that we know that that's an important thing and that it's hard for teachers to do that.
All right, so is this one? Probably not. Turn it off. Okay.
Yep.
Hello, good morning. So we thought from the kids' perspective, we would love if they learned kindness with words and kindness in all ways, to practice respect for each other and beyond, to feel that they have a spiritual home here, to make friends, that they have fun, and that they really like it on the legs and want to come running back, and that they're challenged to be thinkers, and that they build some good memories of their experience here. And as adults, we would contribute by being good mediators and striving for some type of fairness, being a good example, having a sense of humor, having fun, and also showing respect.
Great. Thank you, Naomi. And then, last but not least.
Is that better? Okay. We want our child to experience friendship, respect, feeling accepted, love, kindness, safety, community, thoughtfulness, fun, and belonging, and a better understanding of the world. And as teachers, we hope to do this through acceptance, inspiration, flexibility, ability to make decisions, setting boundaries and keeping it safe, enthusiasm, and humor.
Okay, great. Thank you. Those are great lists. Hang on to those pictures because you may use them again later. So I'll just, this isn't in my notes, but I'm just going to make a plug for this right now, that in terms of like what the teachers bring to the equation, there are two things that I think are really important to say that stack things in your favor. And then I may just ask returning teachers to chime in on this too. I think it's really important to read through stuff well in advance so that you have some time to absorb it and to think about it and to think about how it's going to translate in the classroom, because, you know, these curricula, we provide a lot of information for you. But, you know, it's kind of cookie cutter information, but classrooms are not cookie cutter classrooms. And every class is a little bit different, and you have different dynamics and different challenges. And so reading stuff well in advance gives you time to think about how you can best deliver this to your particular group. I think teachers who don't do that and kind of run in sort of harried and not quite sure what the heck they're doing, don't have a very good experience themselves, and that it's kind of stressful on the classroom as well. So I'm going to make a plug for that. And then the other thing that I want to make a plug for is the importance of teaching team cohesion. Like, you guys are a team, you have each other's backs, ideally, you're working together, it's a collaborative effort. And the more you can nurture that community within your community of teachers, within your classroom community, the better your experience will be. Any other teachers want to add anything to that? Teachers who have done this?
Well, I just think that sometimes, in my experience last year, which was my first year, some teachers are more skilled in one area of it, and whether that's the role that day, being the community, that person can pick up on and substitute for something else. It doesn't need to be the way that it's written in the curriculum.
Absolutely. That is absolutely true. Teach to your strengths. And, you know, again, that's like the strength of team, is that you have people with different skill levels, different interests, enthusiasm, and why not take advantage of that? Colleen, what were you going to say?
It's sort of an offshoot of that. I was just going to say flexibility is key. We may have it a little easier with the preschoolers because the curriculum is, you know, a little more freeform. But I think just knowing that your main goal is making sure the kids have fun, feel loved, and want to come back. If things don't go exactly according to plan during one session, it's not the end of the world. So just the flexibility and the ability to pivot based on who you have in your class.
Yeah, yeah. Great. Great. Kathy?
I've always appreciated when there have been behavioral issues and those students crop up from time to time, that there is communication among the team. So typically there would be 2 teachers there and 2 teachers not there, so that there would be some communication from week to week by email, typically, about what happened and how those issues were handled, so that there could be some continuity in how those behavioral issues or problems are dealt with over time.
Yep. That is really, really important. Whenever we can find areas to have consistency in a very inconsistent program, we need to do that. You know, because there is not consistency about who's teaching from week to week. There's not consistency about what kids are showing up from week to week. So wherever we can create consistency, we try to do that. And I'm going to talk more about that, and Karen will when we talk about classroom rituals. But that's another really important piece, is that the team is on the same page about how to handle dynamics in the classroom.
And one of the things, if I could just add to that, that we tried to do last year was that one of the teachers that was there on one Sunday would also be there on the following Sunday, so that there would be some, you know, continuity just of the person, of the teacher.
Yeah. That's a great structure. If you can pull it off, that's a great way, I think, of scheduling your year. I'll just also throw out there now that, like you probably have seen your calendars, and you'll notice that there's a curriculum lead and a community lead for each week. And historically, how we do this is that the curriculum lead is responsible for delivering the main content of the lesson, and the community lead leads the opening and closing rituals, and then kind of, you know, has classroom management in their purview. And that could be, you know, really shining a light on awesome things that are happening in the group dynamics, or it could be, I need to break these 2 kids up because they're just getting too crazy with each other. This year I'm encouraging more of the thought of sharing some of the responsibility of delivering the lesson. I don't want teachers to feel like they are restrained by that structure of curriculum lead and community lead. And if you're down on the calendar as curriculum lead for that particular week, and there's an activity that you just maybe would like for someone else to do, maybe it feels kind of clunky to you or not very comfortable to you or whatever, you know, ask your co-teacher that week if they would feel okay taking that over. It doesn't have to be so cut and dry. So just think about that as you're doing your planning with your team. Do you want to come on now, Karen, or should I keep going? Sure. Okay. Sorry, she's in the middle of eating her bagel. Sorry. Karen's going to talk about supplies, because they're important.
So please come to me if you have any questions about registrations, class lists, TVs or other ATV stuff that's going on, missing thumb drives, CDs. For some reason, CD players seem to go out pretty frequently. So if you've got a backup, like a phone that plays something, it might just be a good idea to have your phone. Okay, so supplies come in 3 ways. Ta-da! In your classroom, you will see boxes that look like this, and that's just for the regular stuff like markers, pens, glue, paints, watercolor paints, scratch paper. Also, you'll see your chalice, chime, and talking stick will be in a book like this, in a box like this called chalice or something. You know, it might say ritual items. I can't remember what it says, but it will be in your closet in a box like this. And we haven't really talked about rituals, but too much with those supplies. I would really encourage you to keep them sacred. Feel free to use that word. It will help set the tone for the classroom. And also, I mean, it's important for people to respect the relics of our faith, right? Also, you will find upon your arrival into the classroom a special white box that will have your class's name on it. And these are going to be specific materials that are sorted for a lesson, for whatever lesson you're teaching that week. And many of the classrooms will have more than one class in them. So the way that we'll be using them over the weekend. So the way that I do things is, like, say we've got a specific item that it's one per child. So if your class has 15 children, I'll probably pack 18 to 20 of that one thing just to accommodate visitors or somebody that might, you know, something might get messed up and somebody's like just so verklempt about it that they need to have another one. However, there's not going to be enough for everybody to have 2. Or, you know what I mean? Something like that. So try to use those things that look kind of limited wisely. But there are always extras. And then the third way supplies come is in, we call this a curriculum box. And you will find this also in your closet. And you look at whatever lesson you're teaching that week. And in the file folder, you'll find materials related to that lesson. For these, it's really helpful for me and for the classes that follow you, if you can put the things in the file back. That's just a helpful thing. Let's see. So if you need something that's not in your room, say you've come up with a project that you think you're more comfortable presenting or is going to illustrate the concept better, we have, and you'll see later, lots of supplies in the supply room. When you go in the supply room, you'll see there's a rack with construction paper. At the top of that rack, there's small containers. And I would encourage you to use the small containers to take whatever you need, so you're still leaving some of the supply that you're taking in the classroom in case another teacher has a similar idea and needs that supply. Yeah, so you're not taking the last of anything. And remember Leslie's mantra of community over curriculum, and have a rich and rewarding year.
Thanks, Karen. And so just to be clear, each lesson has supplies listed for it, and all those supplies will be provided for you. The supply room stuff that Karen was talking about is if you want something in addition to those items. Yeah, Naomi.
I'm just thinking, so if we're going to prepare a week in advance and read through what we're going to be focusing on, when do we see the supplies?
The supplies are printed in your lessons.
Okay.
So you'll see there as you're reviewing your lesson, you'll see what will be provided.
Okay.
If you need something that isn't in there,
when will the supplies be available to us? I'm just thinking it's abstract to look at the list. When would we look at the actual supplies?
when you come in.
Okay.
When you come in a little bit early for your prep time.
Okay.
If there's something that you really, this isn't a guarantee because I really try hard to commute only by bus, so I I normally do shopping 2 days a month. But if there's something you really need, you know, let me know a good week ahead of time, and I will drive and get a special supply. As long as I have
If we don't have it.
a week ahead of time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I just wanted to deliver a little fan mail. So one of the things that Karen did, at least last year, was stop in to somehow every classroom. I don't know how you do that. There I would be preparing, and in would come Karen to make sure everything was there, which is super helpful. So thank you so much for doing that.
Great. Yeah. Thank you for bringing in engaging materials on your own too. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, thanks. I just had a thought that I was going to say something about that. What was it? Oh, this kind of got alluded to, but I don't think I said this explicitly, but like Karen just said, thank you for bringing in engaging materials. What that means is that you are not defined by what's in that written book. If you have an idea about something that you think would be really cool to bring into the classroom, go for it. Our teachers have brought in so many awesome things, and we encourage that, we love that. If it worked well, tell us, maybe we'll put it into the curriculum permanently. We've just been able to gather a lot of great ideas over the years based on teachers' creativity and ingenuity, so go for it. Okay, so confession, I saw Karen sitting there, I thought, oh, she wants me to move on to supplies. I wasn't really ready to go on to supplies, so now I'm going to backtrack to what we were talking about before with the teaching team stuff. And so I want to mention like 3 ways that we really try to support you in what you're doing during the year. So on October 7th, it's a Monday night, we have an additional teacher training, and we did this for the first time last year, and it was really successful. Teachers really appreciated it, so we're going to do it again. This is going to be for all the teachers, preschool through 9th grade. We're going to meet here. We're going to feed you. It starts at 5:30. There'll be childcare. We'll feed you. We'll have like maybe a 20 to 30-minute session all together in this room. And then we're bringing in professional teachers who can talk about sort of developmentally where your age group is at and what you can expect of that age group, and some strategies for engaging kids of that age. So you'll separate by grade levels. All the holidays and holy days teachers will go in one place, and all of the K-1 teachers will go to another place. And it's just a great opportunity to really focus on the unique needs and challenges and gifts of the age group that you are working with. So people really, really value that, and I hope that you can make it. And then, you know, assuming that we have a lot of full teaching teams in force that night, then there's some time at the end of the night where teams can talk about how they want to integrate all that awesome new knowledge into what they do in the classroom.
What date is that?
Monday, October 7th, and it's scheduled in early October for a reason. By that point, you will have had a few weeks under your belt, and you may have discovered what might be some problem areas or what is feeling a little out of your reach, and then you can bring that to that group. And even just, you know, just having like that wider group of teachers who are teaching the same thing that you're teaching, that's really valuable in and of itself. So you can bring, you know, what's feeling challenging to that evening, and then get some ideas and some support around that. 5:30 to 8. 5:30? Yep. 5:30 to 8. I think somewhere I put 6 o'clock, and I'm sorry. It's really 5:30. It sounds like a long night, but I think it goes by quickly, and I think it's really valuable. Yeah.
I want to say that was one of the most valuable things that we had last year. We had this expert, and I was with the 3 and 4-year-olds, and she clued us into so much about the way they think and act, and gave us a whole list of activities and things that we could have ready in case we blew through the lesson really fast and we needed something to fill the time.
Yeah.
That was wonderful.
Yeah, good. And if you are teaching, like let's say the same age group that you taught last year, and you may be inclined to think, I don't have to go to that because I went last year and it's all good, you have experience that's going to be really valuable to that conversation. So I would encourage you to go anyway, because we would like to take advantage of what you've learned. And you know, it's just nice to have that kind of sharing amongst teachers. So there's that. Teachers News is something that I send out for at least the first semester, mostly every week. And in Teachers News, I try to, like, there's no way we can cover everything this morning in 3 hours, you know? I mean, for one thing, you just kind of shut down after a while and it's hard to take in new information. So I try to use Teachers News as a way of sharing other information that I think may be meaningful or valuable to you. And so when you get those emails that say Teachers News in the headline, that's what that's about. That's my way of communicating additional information or logistical stuff or cheering you on, or you know, whatever it happens to be for that particular week. A couple years ago, I had monthly themes to try to focus in more detail on things like anti-racism teaching, how to ask provocative questions to elicit more discussion, things like that. And each month had a different theme. And I'd like to continue to do that this year. I may have to recycle a couple of what I did before, because the beginning of the year is awfully busy. But my hope is to continue with that. So if there are any particular themes that you think would be really valuable, let me know, because then I'll do some research and come up with a list of ideas and resources and things like that. And then the third way that we try to support everything that you're doing is with a teacher's Facebook page. And I know there's a lot of people who don't like Facebook, and that's fine. Being on Facebook is not a requirement by any means, but the teacher's Facebook page can be a valuable way for you to connect with each other and for people to share ideas. It's not me sharing stuff, it's your Facebook community. So at some point I will send out a link in one of the Teachers News emails, I'm sure. And if you are interested in being added to that Facebook page, then I'll add you to the Facebook page. And then you can talk amongst yourselves there. And I'll just eavesdrop. So, okay. So I wanted to mention all those things. And now I want to talk go back a little bit more to how we go about accomplishing the goals that we're trying to accomplish during the year. And, well, that's kind of demanding, turning it on. I don't know. I don't know if it's on. Oh, you mean where it says on? Yeah. Yep, it's on. Okay. So we talk about the head, heart, and soul of children's religious education. The head being the curriculum content that we have. I think by and large it's really rich content. There's always room for improvement. But we have done a lot of improving of what you are going to be teaching this year. Celebrating Me in My World, it has been completely revised. Experiences with the Web of Life was revised a couple years ago, and I think this is only year 2. The second time that we're offering the newly revised Experiences with the Web of Life. Holidays and Holy Days could use a little work, but it's still really fun. I mean, I think that people really enjoy the lessons of Holidays and Holy Days. I just think that they need a little updating, and that I'm going to work on before the next time, but I couldn't get it done for y'all, I'm sorry. But part 2 of the year is Moral Tales, and we've only taught that one other year, and it was awesome. It was really awesome. It's great stories, really great activities. People really, really enjoyed being in the class and teaching the class, so you have that to look forward. And I don't mean to like diss Holidays and Holy Days, because it really is a good curriculum. It's just a little clunky as it's presented in its 1960 format or whatever it is. And Babylonian is, we haven't made any changes to it, but it's a strong curriculum. People have really enjoyed teaching it. So the curriculum content, I think, is all pretty solid. The head, heart, and soul of children's RE is really about the relationships that happen during the year. It's kind of everything that we were talking about here. It's the friendships that are made. It's the friendships that are made, kind of friendships. The connections that are made between teachers and kids. I love when teachers say, oh, I was at Target and I ran into, Ellie when she was really young, and she came running up and gave me a hug, or, it's just really sweet to hear things like that. I love those kinds of stories. And that's all about the community over content. And then the soul is about the interconnection. We really are also focusing on the spirit of the children who are in our classes. And that's an important part of what we do. Our classroom rituals are kind of designed around that to help our kids get more in touch with their spirit, and to give them a sense of self. We want them to really have a sense of who they are as spiritual beings in this world. We want to value that part of them. It's often a part that isn't valued or acknowledged or recognized in other areas of their lives. And we want their time here to pay some attention to that piece of who they are. So that's the head, heart, and soul of children's religious education. Another way of talking about sort of that bigger picture is talked about by David Siegel, who's a psychologist, and he's written several books about children and mindfulness. He wrote Whole Brain Child, Mindsight, Brainstorm, and he talks a lot about how in public education, we really need to shift away from, arithmetic and writing and all that, and shift to resiliency, reflection, and relationship. And I think that those words, resiliency, relationship, and reflection, are very much descriptive of what we try to do in our classes. And so for reflection, we start every class with some quiet contemplation when we ring the chime. We have our classroom rituals. We have engaged discussion that we hope will help them to reflect on their own personal ideas and values around things. And granted, that happens more in some classes than it does in others. But there's at least a little bit of that in all of the classes that we have. For resiliency, we really are trying to develop that strong sense of self that I mentioned by creating a safe place for them to ask questions and bring them closer to who they are. And relationship, I think we've covered. We've talked about that, the importance of the connections in the classroom. So, let's see what I have next here. So I want to say a little more about some of the ways that we do this, the structures that we have in place to help accomplish those things of relationship, resiliency, and what was the third one? What? Reflection, yes. Okay, so the opening and closing rituals have become more and more important to my mind the longer I'm here. I really feel like they are the common thread that connects from week to week, that it provides sort of this shared language that the class has, that it can be a way of really experiencing their community together. And I think it's where we most speak to the spirit of the kids. Last year, mid-year, we added a new ritual to the opening and closing with a wristband that I'm going to go over with you when we break up into groups. And that is going to take the place of creating a covenant. The wristband itself is sort of a covenant unto itself. And one of the things that I like about it is that it was not uncommon for a class to create a covenant on the first day of class, and then they hang it up, and then it just kind of hangs there. And you know how, like, when something's there all the time, you don't pay attention to it anymore? I think that there was some of that going on But with the wristband, it's kind of like recovenanting every week. You're reminding each other of how you're going to be in relationship with each other. So it's still, you know, in its infancy. We're still feeling out how it works, but the feedback I got last year was really positive. So I'm excited to be starting the year with the wristband ritual, and I always welcome your feedback on everything. So also with the community and curriculum lead, that structure I think really helps to provide the space in the classroom for the kids to accomplish what we want them to accomplish, because you have someone who is kind of freed up from, you know, you can't like totally pull apart the community piece, because of course if you're teaching, if you're the main teacher that day, you're going to be paying attention to the community. But I think it's really supportive to the kids and to the curriculum lead to have someone who is sort of nurturing the group dynamic that's happening in the class. I think that it's been a really useful structure for teachers. And most of all, with who you bring into the classroom, and I mean that like with all my heart. I think let me say, the UUA, the Unitarian Universalist Association, a few years ago created like a whole new bunch of curricula, and for each lesson they have spiritual preparation for the teachers. And they're encouraging teachers to spiritually prepare before they go into the classroom each week. And it's pretty cool, and I tried to add that into Teachers News a bit too. But I think it's important. I think that it helps bring the ministry part of this into the equation for you, and I think it helps you to think about how you're going to bring in your best self to the classroom experience, and how is this information meaningful and important to you. And I hope that you'll use the curricula as a guide and not as an order. You know, it's not something that you have to say every word that's in the curriculum. I really want to encourage you to read through the material and think about how to make it authentic for you, so that when you're walking in the classroom, it's sort of you first, not curriculum first, if that makes sense. So making it authentic and meaningful and real for you, I think just makes for a much richer classroom experience. Any former teachers want to say anything about any of that? Paula?
Hello, my name is Paula, and I taught the 3-year-olds last year, and we worked on the ritual, and I was fortunate enough to work with some other experienced teachers, and at 3, they're so young that that whole beginning ritual was a little too long for them, so our experienced teachers kind of modified it so that it was shorter and easier for them to grasp, and it worked beautifully, and they learned it very quickly, and they started to, I don't want to say lead it, I mean, they were ready to do it. So I guess my lesson there was we modified it with some knowledgeable people who knew what 3-year-olds could and couldn't do, but it still gave them that comfort, and they started to look forward to it, and it was really great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good. There is comfort in knowing that when you walk through the room, this A, B, and C will happen, you know? I think that's comforting for little kids, it's comforting for adults to know, to have some idea of what to expect when you walk into a room. Any other thoughts?
I'm just going to add to what you said, just a funny story. So the consistency of the ritual is so important, and for some kids it's more important than others, in fact. We have one student in our class that would regularly let the teachers know if they got a word wrong.
Nice. They are good teachers. Yeah, you know, I like when teachers use a lot of flexibility with things, but the one thing that I will ask you all to be really consistent and stick to is the classroom rituals, because I think that they're an important part of consistency. So, yeah.
One think improvement opportunity for me is we ended up with a little bit of wristband as fidget toy
Yep.
and wristband as slingshot even a few times. So I think I need to think about how we're gonna get ahead of that with, because we've got the same cohort of kids moving up that I won't name any names, but I can see it coming.
Are we doing wristbands with the 3 and 4-year-olds?
No, thank you for bringing that up. Yeah, we don't do the wristbands with the preschoolers, just K through 7.
Well, we'll hope for tincture of time, but
Yeah.
hope is my strategy, so.
I think too, just that if kids know what the expectation is, like from day one, to say we're putting these on our wrists and they have to stay on your wrist and that is what the expectation is. I think not that it will fix it for the whole year, but I think just setting that expectation right at the beginning and making it clear, like what do we expect for these and what does this mean when you put this on your wrist? It means this, that this is our covenant with each other. And then if people are not following that, I think then remind them like this is what it is, and then hoping for the best. But I saw that when I was doing the parent helper, and I hope to just try to figure out what is my expectation with that, and what's okay and what's not okay, and making sure I'm really clear about that from like the very beginning. Maybe that'll help.
Barry and then Tony.
I don't know if this is still being done, but the last time I taught, you did check-ins each week after this opening ritual.
Yeah.
And I thought that was a nice ritual because they were expecting it each week. But also the teachers got on the floor with the kids and also checked in.
Yeah.
So it's part of the authenticity part that you're asking them to tell us something about their week, but we were also willing to tell them something so we could model a little bit, but also say we're all here together.
Right. Yep. Yeah, good. That is still part of the ritual, so I'm glad that was valuable. Tony?
I guess this is sort of a regression, but I'm wondering, have you tried other kind of stress toys, like the silly putty and the balloon that you sometimes find some places?
Yep, every classroom has a box like this one that's labeled fidget toys. And each one has a variety of fidget toys in it. And fidget toys can be your friend or your enemy. So as long as they're used as fidget toys, they're awesome. Once they become projectiles, they're not so great. So you kind of have to, get to know your group and who's going to use them in the intended way and who isn't. Some teachers use them regularly, others are like, there's no way I'm pulling out the fidget box. So yeah.
Barry talking about the check-in reminded me that having only the person holding the talking stick being able to talk was very valuable, especially for the little children. They're so eager to tell you things, and it was hard for them sometimes, but they learned that only the person with the talking stick gets to talk.
Yeah. Yep. And the other thing that I would say, in speaking to I know these kids like to use these as rubber bands. Every year is new, every dynamic is new. Kids get older, they change. This is my hope speaking. And, I think, I hope that starting the year with the ritual will help create the way that we want those to be used more easily than starting it halfway year.
Well, and I think, if I can just piggyback on that, I think what you said about the wristband is going to replace making a class covenant. And again, for these kids, they will have been through a few years of making a class covenant. So if we can say, guess what, instead of, remember all those things we used to talk about, they're all right here. So I think to Beth's point about kind of reinforcing the why, I think that makes sense to me anyway as I started.
And just taking it off your wrist is sort of breaking covenant. So I should have worn one. Some of you are probably like, what is she talking about? You'll find out soon enough. Norma or Dory?
Most of those I was just going to say that our preschoolers took the talking stick and almost every one of them used it as a microphone. And they used it to listen and play. And then when they noticed the sparkles went there, they turned it upside down and it became a microphone.
Whatever works. Dory, did you want to add something?
I just had a question. Do the 3-year-olds have to use the
Nope. Right. Yes. We learned last year that preschoolers and wristband rituals do not go together. So, lessons learned. Okay, so, oops. Here's just some questions that were shared by a woman named Tracy Hurd, who was the Director of Lifespan Education at the UUA, just to kind of plant that little seed in your heads to think about. She, in her work, was encouraging teachers to ask themselves these questions. To what extent can or has this teaching experience each week? Has this teaching experience deepened my relationship with one or more child? To what extent can or has this teaching experience deepened my relationship with one or more or other adults? One or more other adults, okay. To what extent can or has this teaching experience deepened my sense of belonging to this community? And to what extent can or has this teaching experience given me new knowledge or insights about my faith? This is just another way of sort of making the whole experience a little richer for yourself and to come at it with a little more intention. So, okay, so here's some really good news. You're not at this on your own. You're not alone at all this whole year. This is our CRE village, and some of you are very familiar with it and others are not, but these are all of the players that happen for each class. So each class has a classroom support coordinator, and the classroom support coordinator's job is to sign up parents to be your parent helper each week. So each week, theoretically, you should have your curriculum teacher, your community teacher, and a parent helper. The classroom support coordinator is also hopefully going to be visiting you on the first and or second weeks of class to take your pictures, because we like to put your pictures up on the board outside your classroom. So they do that as well. So there's that person. There's a Faith and Action coordinator. Preschoolers do not have Faith and Action, but K through 5th does, and that is a way of us putting our values into action. So those are service projects. In the K1 class, it's typically a project that happens in the classroom, like making toys for the animal shelter, putting together cookie jars that we sell and give the money to a cause. What are some other things? We made fleece blankets for Heartland Farm Sanctuary, things like that. For the 2nd through 5th graders, I really try to encourage those Faith and Action coordinators to get the kids out of this building, into the community, doing some sort of service project. You don't have a responsibility for planning any of the Faith and Action, that's their job. It's nice to have one teacher go along or be present because you're familiar with the kids. So that's Faith and Action. And those are on your calendar, they're already scheduled, the Faith and Action coordinators know when they're supposed to happen, so that's all worked out. There's 1 or 2 per year, depending on how your particular calendar worked out. I mentioned parent helpers that are there for preschool through 5th grade. Karen, did we include in their binders the handout about how to best utilize parent helpers? Okay, I'll have to email that to you guys. Did you? Okay. Oh, parents did. That's right. I sent it out to all the parents. I think we have historically underutilized parent helpers, and so I would encourage you to really think about how to best utilize your parent helper and to really integrate them in the experience that week. I think it's a great thing if parent helpers. Some of the feedback I've gotten is that when teachers really need help is before the kids arrive and they're setting things up, if they have things they need to cut out or stuff like that. So I have encouraged parents to check in with teachers ahead of time to see if they need any help. But think about, what you could maybe ask a parent helper to do so that they're feeling a little more a part of things in a way that alleviates your burden and doesn't create more, they're there to help, not to create more work for you. Yeah?
Will we know or have contact information for the parent helper for each week ahead of time?
It's a great question, and typically not, although I can certainly ask the classroom support coordinators to get that list to the
Or
team.
maybe just so that we could be like, hi, this is what we plan to be doing.
Yeah.
If you have suggestions or something that you would be more, I don't know, equipped to help with.
Or something like if they're willing to stop in ahead of time to help set up or whatever.
Yeah.
Then they would know that.
Right. Yeah, that would be great. Will you remember that?
Yes.
Yeah. And I don't have my notes or my pen. So yeah, that's a really great idea to try to get that list of people. Karen, as you know, is here to help you with everything supply, registration related, name tags. You will lose name tags during the year. They will get shredded. They will, God knows what happens to the name tags. But whenever you need a name tag replacement, you can talk to Karen or just leave a little note in the yeah. Attendance sheets, and you know, we have kids that get added to the list throughout the year. Some of the classes are full, and you know, obviously that's not going to happen. But for a lot of classes, we continue to take enrollment throughout the year. And whenever there's someone new, Karen will let you know who that is and send you their contact information. We have religious education greeters that are stationed on Saturdays at the main entrance to the Landmark Auditorium, and on Sundays down at the religious education table at the end of this hallway. They are the people who meet and greet our visitors. Some of you perhaps have been met and greeted by an RE greeter, and they sign the visitors in. They'll bring them down to your classroom. If you're in there, they'll introduce them to you, and so they take care of everything visitor related. The rule of thumb is that visitors can visit up to 3 times, and then we ask them to either commit to register or to not continue coming, although we don't put it that way. But yeah, we want commitment. For one thing, we want them, if they're going to come regularly, we want them in the system of getting all the information that everyone else gets. So, I'm part of the village. If you have any questions or concerns or suggestions about the curriculum, about class dynamics, about special needs, we do have some kids who have been identified as having special needs. If you have any in your class, you'll be getting an email from me within the next week or so, maybe 2, about who they are. I'm going to ask parents to fill out kind of an action sheet so that you have a little more information about how to respond to those special needs. We have inclusion buddies for kids who could really benefit from having someone who focuses just on their needs. So if you're finding that you have a child in your class who is really, it's really hard to pay attention to what they need and to what the rest of the class needs, then you should let me know that. And then I'll work on communicating with the parents, and then if everyone's on board, getting inclusion buddies for them. So anything with that, let me know. Sometimes there are teaching team issues with teaching team members not getting along, or frustrations because they have no idea, they never get responses to email, so they don't have an idea if that person's on board or not, they don't know what to expect. Someone doesn't show up regularly or stuff like that. If you're having any concerns about your teaching team, let me know. And you know, for behavioral things and for teaching team things, always the sooner the better. You know, it's much easier to deal with things at the beginning than when a lot of frustration has built up and animosity. So, okay, and then there's a children's RE ministry team. They will, during the year, do these spotlight on things in the newsletter to write an article about each one of our classes. So each month we'll have, starting in October probably, we'll do a little newsletter blurb about one of the classes so that the congregation feels like they know what we do in RE. And so at some point, a ministry team member will probably contact you. They also plan the RE Appreciation Dinner, which happens in February and is a really lovely event, and I hope that you'll come. And it'll be good food, and they work hard pulling that together for you. and other things. We haven't, our video resources list didn't quite materialize like we thought it would last year. So that's a work in progress. They're the ones who started the teacher Facebook page too. And then of course your teaching team is part of your village too. So lots of pieces to this puzzle. This is a very hard to read picture of the classroom volunteer list. So you should have gotten that in your binders, right? Are they in the binders? No?
And that's not the correct one.
No, this is an old one. This is an old one.
And we don't have a copy.
Okay. I sent it by email. Excellent. Glad I did that. So on the right, that's your teaching team. So it should have all of the names of the teachers and their email addresses. The far left is your classroom support coordinator. That's CSC, classroom support coordinator. That person's name and email address. And then the middle person is your faith and action coordinator and their email address. And I am finding more and more, I was just telling Karen that I think in the future we need to add cell phone numbers to the teaching teams, because more and more I'm hearing from people that email is not a very effective way of reaching them, that if you really need to get in touch with someone, it's by text. So something to consider when you get together with your teaching team is to exchange phone numbers if you do texting. That's particularly important on that Sunday morning when you can't start your car, or there was a snowstorm and you can't get out of your driveway and you need to get in touch with someone. So, any questions about this grid, classrooms, volunteer grid? Okay, another old calendar. So every week, you know exactly what is being taught. That's the lesson that Karen is providing supplies for. You have your slot for curriculum lead and for community lead. If you need to switch things around for whatever reasons, you can do that if you really have to. It kind of throws things off a little bit in terms of supply provision, and Karen may grumble, but if there's a compelling reason to switch it, like I know already one Faith and Action coordinator has said, I can't do it the date that you assigned, can I talk to the teaching team to switch it? And the answer is yes, you can do that. So, there may be some reasons that come up. What else do I want to say about that? On this page, well, that's kind of wonky, isn't it? I give you a heads up about daylight savings time. And so there's the Faith and Action is schedule, so that's on your calendar, and then it just says teacher helper. I do want to say that it's super helpful if all 4 teachers can be there on the first day, so that the kids are meeting all of you from the get-go. I think it's super helpful for that first lesson for each one of you to take a piece of the lesson, so they're all engaging with you as teachers. You're not just some quiet person on the sideline. So I encourage all of you to be there the first day, and at the end of the year, I encourage all of you to be there on the last day, just for the sake of closure. It's nice to have the whole community there. And we're not on that yet, so don't even read it. Okay. Let's see if there's anything else I want to say about some of that. If you don't already know this, it's our protocol that after each week's lesson, that someone from your team sends out an email summary of what was talked about. Not necessarily what specific kids have said, but what was the general theme. And so as a teaching team, you need to decide which teacher is going to do that. Is it the curriculum lead or the community lead who's going to send out that summary? And I can tell you that parents super appreciate this. There's probably a few of you appreciative parents in this room. It's a really nice way to feel connected to what's going on in your kid's classroom or in their kid's classroom. And so they really look forward to hearing about that, and it gives them a catalyst for conversation during the week that we hope will kind of carry on religious education into their home lives, not just be something that happens here. So if you can be consistent about that, that would be fantastic. I also ask that teaching teams send out a welcome email before classes begin, just saying, hey, we're your team, here's a little bit about each one of us, we are really looking forward to having your kid in class this year. You know, we're going to be learning about the web of life and talking about spiders and squirrels and trees, oh my, and, you know, stuff like that. You know, just kind of a nice, welcoming email. So, yeah.
Did you say we send out a weekly summary before or after?
After.
And are we provided a digital copy of all the parent emails?
No. No, so you have to manually put that in. Yeah, create a contact list.
Sometimes the parent support coordinator has already made a list of all the parents because before the classes even start, they ask for parent helpers to start volunteering. So you could also just ask your parent coordinator if they could send that list to you, and then you don't have to read it.
As I mentioned, you'll have name tags. I would really encourage you to wear at least yours each week. We do have visitors. It's nice for them to attach a name with your face. We have parent helpers who may not necessarily know who you are, so that's helpful to them. It could be helpful to the kids. So if you could wear your name tags. And I know that the name tags can become kind of like the wristbands. They can become more like fidget toys, but hopefully you can encourage your kids to keep them around their necks and have them be used in their intended way. On the first day, yeah.
Well,
You're
heads
gonna-
up, this year, we're gonna need the teachers to stuff the name tags into the lanyard. So you're gonna get perforated sheets with the name tags, and most of us on that first day are decorating name tags, so that's the activity you're setting up for. Maybe you don't wanna put it in and you wanna wait till they decorate it, but that's something a little different this year.
Okay. And then I will show you when we do the room tours, but we do take attendance each week. And it's really helpful for us. If we have kids on the waiting list, I'll take a look to see how many kids are actually showing up, and if we can get people off the waiting list and into your classroom, then that's great. And the only way I have to know that is by looking at your attendance sheet. We also do just track attendance so that we have some sense of, you know, how regularly our kids are engaging with classes. So please be sure to take attendance each week.
Hey Leslie, are you gonna tell them about that special cool tracking trick with attendance? Where they put one slash of the X when the children come in, and then when they see the parent picking up, they put the second slash?
You're going to talk about that with the nursery school wing people.
Oh, okay, all right.
But it doesn't apply to the 2nd through 5th
Okay.
graders because they just leave the classroom.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but yeah, if you could show them that, that'd be great. Okay, your curricula, please don't write in there. We reuse those every year, and I know that the impulse to make notes all over the lesson that you're teaching may be really strong, but please don't write in them. Use Post-its or make a photocopy for yourself that you can write all over, because we do reuse them. Okay. And also know that parents are always welcome to stay in your classroom. It's not just the parent helper. If somebody, you know, like if we have a K1 kid who's visiting or has just enrolled, they're nervous about being there, it's always fine for their parent to stay with them. So you may find weeks when you have a lot of adult bodies in there. Okay, and also, we've had some teachers that take pictures of kids during the year, and they're adorable and they're awesome and we love them. We do have a list of kids whose parents do not want their photos being used, and we would ask that if you take any pictures of kids within your classroom, you don't post anything on social media. If you want to share it amongst your class, that's fine, but no posting on social media. I know you're going to think, my kids are adorable, they're the best ever, I want to show them to all my friends and so they can see how cool my kids are, but don't do that. Just tell them all about it. Okay, any questions? Yeah.
I have a question. So thinking about the emails to parents, I'm just thinking one way to kind of show parents what they're doing is maybe to take a picture picture and then like, you know, send it with the email? Is that not allowed either with the sharing issues, or is that?
It's okay if it's just being shared with the parents within the class.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that could be like a, I don't know, because I feel like sometimes it's a black box, like what, actually, you know, I'm
Yeah.
talking to my
Yeah.
son, what happened during class. Like,
Right. Yeah. No, that would be fine. And then hopefully they won't share it on social media. But
yeah, right.
they
That's the
probably
only thing. Make a caveat, like, do not.
Yeah, right. If you do that, yeah, let's say that. If you do that, just remind them.
Could you
Don't
provide
use.
us with the list of kids?
Yes, you do have the list. You will have the list. Where's the list?
You'll have a list on your clipboard along with, and this is important too, along with the allergies and health concerns, and it's a comprehensive list for the whole program. And then if the report comes out on the database properly, it'll also be noted on the attendance sheet. For right now, just make sure to check the back of the clipboard for those lists.
Because then maybe if you were to send out a parent email, you'd make sure that the picture doesn't have any of those children.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, Paula.
I just want to say that again in the little kid class, taking turns with who gets to do different pieces of the ritual is part of what you do, and it's helpful if the team gets together on how they're going to do that and keep track of who's doing it, because I guess traditionally it's been whoever's got the parent helper, you know, then they're the, but for a variety of reasons, some kids don't always get to have their parent. Anyway, just kind of think consciously for a fair way of how to do that and then keep track of it, because the kids remember who's had a turn and who has not, and for them it can be a very big deal. So think about it.
Yeah. And that, I mean, when you talk about that, primarily what I'm thinking of is lighting the chalice, which we don't use fire. We have battery operated votives. But yeah, if a kid's parent is teaching in another classroom, teachers aren't asked to be parent helpers on top of teaching. So so then that kid's parent, that kid would never have a chance if we just went by the parent helper protocol. So I would encourage you to just put a little C on the attendance sheet. That's one way of keeping track of who got to light the chalice and who didn't. Big thing in the small kids' life. Yes, Liz.
Also, even as they get older, there are some kids who are not willing to participate or, you know, they're shy. You don't want to stand up in front of everybody. So if you're taking turns and everybody has a turn, then they get their turn.
Yeah, right. That's right. That's good. Yeah. Anyone else? Okay. Let me see what time it is.
10:45.
10:45? Okay. How I am on my agenda. So let's take a 10-minute break, and then we're going to split up, and the preschool and K1 people are going to go with Karen in room 1 in the Meeting House Nursery School wing. The K1 folks are going to be with her pretty briefly just to see what the room is like and where things are kept. And then you're going to come join me and the 2nd through 5th grader teachers in Courtyard Classroom A. And then in 10 minutes, the 2nd through 5th grade teachers can meet me out in the commons like where your binders were. Okay? Make sense? So 10 minutes, the preschool through 1st grade teachers go to room 1 in Meeting House Nursery School wing. The other teachers meet me in the commons. Okay, yeah.
I didn't see the phased action